Would you like a drink?
He's a really nice guy. That's what the napkin is for. I probably need more. At least nobody's too close to me. Yeah, right. Thank you. None of those little cute ones they used to give me. Yeah, right, Gilmar, yeah, Gilmar, I always had those little ones, I mean, they're good.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Oh, yeah. Peter, how are you doing tonight? Really? Oh, gosh. Here you go, Rita. That is not going to happen. I'm not replying back. Rick said you were all ready. Good evening, everybody. It's 6:33 approximately. Welcome to the August 2020 Manitowoc County Board of Supervisors monthly meeting. We'll begin with the invocation by Supervisor Juror, followed by the pledge of allegiance to the flag. Everybody, please rise.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, look kindly on our group gathered here and during this meeting as we discuss and deliberate on issues of importance to our county. Help us be guided by your Spirit. May we be wise in our discernment, balanced in our judgment, fair in our decisions, and visionary in our planning. Even though we may have differing views, may we listen to one another, be courteous to one another, and be guided by our common goals. May we be mindful of what is best for all the citizens of Manitowoc County and keep safe all those defending our liberty. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Juror. Roll call is going around. I think all 25 members are present. I don't have my reader glasses on, so we are all present this evening. Before we get started with the meeting, just a reminder, there was a couple I should say complaints, but requests after our last county board meeting. When you have the microphone, using the microphone, please keep it as close to your mouth as possible. It makes it easier to hear. There was a couple people who said that you could barely hear anybody when it was away from your mouth. So. And also remember, when you're using the microphone, there's the 5-second rule. You turn it on. If it's off, you have to wait 5 seconds for it to start. So just remember that before we start. All right, next up is consideration and correction of our minutes from our July 21st, 2020 Manitowoc County Board meetings. Motion by Supervisor Banky, second by Supervisor Ballman to approve those minutes. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried, and the minutes are approved. No additions or deletions to the agenda, correct? All right. We'll jump right in with reports of supervisors' offices and department directors. First up, and I don't think anybody's here from the clerk of court, but we'll still read the proclamation. We have a proclamation from County Executive Bob Ziegler and myself proclaiming September as Juror Appreciation Month. If you bear with me, whereas the right to a trial by jury is one of the core values of American judicial system. Service by citizens as jurors is indispensable to the judicial system, and the privilege and duty of serving as a juror is as fundamental to democracy as the right to vote. And whereas the Wisconsin State Court System, partnering with the State Bar of Wisconsin, has established September as Juror Appreciation Month to set aside a time to publicly recognize the contribution of those who are summoned and serve as jurors, to improve communication with jurors and employers, to disseminate a positive message about jury service, and to reinforce public confidence in the justice system. And whereas the Manitowoc County Board of Supervisors supports the goal of educating the public about jury duty and the importance of jury service, applauds the efforts of jurors who fulfill their civic duty, and believes that all jurors should be treated with respect and in a way so that their service is not unduly burdensome. Now therefore, we, Bob Ziegler, Manitowoc County Executive, and Jim Bryan, Manitowoc County Board Chair, along with the Manitowoc County Board of Supervisors, hereby proclaim the month of September as Juror Appreciation Month in Manitowoc County. I'll make sure that Lynn gets this, and once again, the clerk of court's office does an awesome job. Our judicial system is incredible here in Manitowoc County. And you know, it's ironic, and I've always talked about it. I've always wanted to be a juror. You can't be on a list to be a juror. You have to be randomly selected, but I never had the privilege of serving as a juror. But Lynn, if you hear me, push it off. All right, next up is we have a report. Public Works Director Jerry Noiser and Expo Facility Manager Janelle Shelton, Annual Expo Facility Report. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. We'll jump ahead to the next one. We're gonna go with Planning and Zoning Director Tim Ryan and Assistant Director Brandon Robinson from Bay Lakes Regional Planning Commission to discuss the Manitowoc County Year Comprehensive Plan Update. So Tim, Brandon, you're certainly welcome to come to the board, to the podium. If you please use the mic, and it's gonna take 5 seconds for it to start. Turn it on. 3, 4, 5. There we go. Perfect.
Nice to see everybody again. Again, I'm Tim Ryan, Manitowoc County Planning Director. I'd like to have Brandon Robinson introduce him, give you a nice presentation on our comp plan update. The plan, we did a 20-year plan roughly 20 years ago, and we were required to do a 10-year update to the plan. We worked extensively with the regional plan to accomplish that task. Plan is very important. Without a comp plan update, most of our ordinances that deal with land regulations would be invalid. So with that said, I want to pass the time to Brandon.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate it. As Tim mentioned, my name is Brandon Robinson with Bay Lake Regional Planning Commission. We've been working with the county for a couple decades now in helping the individual communities as well as the county with a number of different projects. So we're going to focus really on the comprehensive plan that we've been working on with the county since basically July of 2018. We helped develop the original comprehensive plan for Manitowoc County, which was adopted formally in 2009. This serves as an update to that particular document. The beauty of this particular document is, as we'll show you, we've done a little more dynamic things with it to allow ease of usability as well as promoting it somewhat as a marketing tool for the county in general. When we put this together, I should mention that we put together a coastal management grant for Manitowoc County to update this particular document. And this is a $30,000 plan. Half of that, a little over $15,000, was funded through coastal management. So you got so the county got a county plan update for roughly half the cost of what it would take to put it together. So with that, Tim kind of mentioned the importance of the document. A comprehensive plan is important from the standpoint as it helps guide the development and preservation of the county overall. local units of government do have their own individual plans, but the importance of a county plan is there needs to be consistency with the county's farmland preservation plan, as well as the county's general code of ordinances, whether it be just the general ordinance, subdivision ordinance, land division ordinance, those particular things. Without a comprehensive plan being in place, that consistency would lack, and you would run into issues in terms of implementing the tools that you have in place for land use controls. So that's why this needs to be updated. It is called a 20-year sorry about that. It is called a 20-year comprehensive plan. However, as Tim mentioned as well, it is required by state statute to be updated every 10 years. So this is essentially your 10-year update that took place in 2009. It was meant to be a 12-month process. However, with COVID coming into play, we did get an extension. Therefore, we're looking to wrap this thing up in just under 2 years. So we're looking in pretty good shape. Ultimately, the components of a comprehensive plan, everyone should have a copy in front of them. It's a nice synopsis of the county from a lot of different attributes, whether it be demographics, housing, transportation, utilities, infrastructure, those types of things we lay out. But the important components are the future development, strategies for development, preservation, so on and so forth, economic development, all those different components that make up the county's land use overall. So with that, what you see in front of you is pretty much about a fourth of what the document used to look like. Again, we tried to focus on usability. There's a lot of information that was in the old document, or just saying in the current document. This is a better synopsis, and it makes for more usability just by the average user as well as by the planning department. So in terms of adoption process, you're looking to take formal action on this. One of the big things was public participation. We worked primarily with the Planning and Park Committee to basically put the document in the form that you see it today. We had a public hearing, we had an open house to get the public's input and feedback on where this plan sits, and we've gotten positive feedback. We've made adjustments accordingly. So with that, I'm going to direct your attention to the center of the room at the display boards. And one of the beauties of this is you not only get a hard copy document that's in front of you, we also developed a story map, which essentially brings the document to life. It's an interactive tool that allows anybody from elected officials to general citizens to take a look at the plan, and using it as not just a decision-making tool, but also a marketing tool. So anybody who is interested in maybe moving to Manitowoc County for living purposes or just from a business standpoint, this will allow those individuals to take a look at what does the county have to offer, but also what does the county look to be in the next 20 years? What is the vision that the county has in place? So this is a nice tool where people can just go online and take a look at where the county is and where will it be. If you're having a hard time seeing the screen and you have your mobile device, if you turn to page 6 of your document, we have a QR code on that page. You can scan that with your phone, and it will bring up the story map on your mobile device. If you're having a difficult time seeing that, you can kind of follow along with what I'm showing there too. So with that, what we have here is just like I indicated, it's a, oops. Okay, here we go. What we have here is, again, it looks like the cover, but at the bottom you can see here there are tabs, and I'm just going to click 2 different components. So if I go into the housing component, it will bring up the development strategies. It will bring up the post or the housing trends that took place over the last several decades. It identifies different structure types, age of housing, a lot of background data, and then we get into housing demand for each community for the next 20 years. Again, as I mentioned, this is a 20-year document, so it's going to project out how many housing units are anticipated in the county, basically each municipality for the next 20 years, and it gives us a number. to build off of in terms of how much land may be needed for that development to take place. A lot of the graphics that you see on here as I'm scrolling through are also in the document, but the interesting part of this, if I can get to it, bear with me, is their interactive components. So this map that you see here, which is a transportation map, we can click on this map anywhere in the county and zoom in to a particular area and identify the road and what its function is. So it gives you a better sense of what that road might be used for. The other side of it is you can actually do a search, a property search. So when I get into the future land use, the nice thing is you can take a look at where your property is located, and it will also tell you what the existing land use is, what the potential land use could be down the road, not for your particular property, but maybe even land around it or general parcels around yourself as a landowner. So the functionality itself kind of gives you an idea where we can use this tool to allow landowners the ability to take a look at what their particular property may look like. So here's another, basically this is a rundown of the different categories. This is agriculture. The areas of the county where agriculture is anticipated to continue through the county. And then we get into other areas such as, this is the urban transition zone. So these particular areas show where urban centers are located and where potential development could take place. And you could actually enter in your property and it would zoom into that property. I don't want to do it now because I'm guessing there might be a technical glitch, so I don't want to tackle it too much. But you can type in your address and it'll zoom into that property and give you an idea of what maybe would the future land use be in that area or general area within the county. So the beauty of the interactive tool is it's not just the comp plan that we were looking at. We were looking at this into the future as well. So we have a comprehensive plan in place for Manitowoc County. There's nothing that says that the county can't add a component to this for farmland preservation or something for parks and recreation. So this is a tool that it's not just going to be stagnant like the hard copy document you have in front of you. It will also be a tool that we can build off of from an online perspective. We can add different components, whether it be public works, any type of addition that the county may want to add, they can build to this story map. So it's not just a stagnant tool. With that, I guess I'm not going to dive into it too much and take up too much of your time. I really wanted to kind of identify what the importance of the comprehensive plan is, the importance of why the county needs to have this update, and what we're looking to do to help the county move forward, not just from a document perspective and a development perspective and a preservation standpoint, but how technology is allowing the county to be able to plan forward into the future. So with that, I want to thank you all for the opportunity to come and speak to you on the comprehensive plan. It's been a pleasure working with Tim and his group in the Planning and Park, as well as the Planning and Park Commission. We've had a good working relationship, and we hope to continue to build on that. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brandon, and Tim as well, and Planning and Park and the whole staff and everybody working on this, and Bay Lakes Regional Planning as well. It's not an easy process, as I'm sure you can relate to. Does anybody have any questions for Brandon while he's here from the supervisors? Supervisor, wait, hold on. Supervisor Shimola, we'll get you a microphone. I know people can hear you here, but I guess I want to make sure people can hear you at home as well that are tuned in. So.
I was just curious about what you were talking about right now. Is this available online for anybody to see? I mean, with all the little apps and stuff you were talking about?
Yeah, at this point, it is available to the public. There are a couple tweaks that we need to make once the once the document is finalized and the county board makes the final approval on it, once we make those final tweaks, it'll be official. And like I said, I think on page 6 of your draft documents, if you scan that, you can view the actual story map and the app that's available.
Thank you, Supervisor Shimalonis. Anybody else have any questions for Brandon Weiser or Tim for that matter? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate all your efforts as like I mentioned to you before, Brandon, I moved Planning Park Commission report to the top of the committee report, so you won't have as long a way as many. So, all right, next up will be Public Works Director Jerry Noiser and Expo Facility Manager Janelle Shelton and Expo Facility Report. No reason to be sorry, this glitches in. Well, we're here with beautiful day of weather today, right? No, not humidity and very good today. It's whose fault? Okay.
I was having problems earlier. There we go.
Perfect. All right, continue on.
Well, I'm just gonna start. Everybody has a hard copy on their desk, so you can follow along that way if you like, until we get the technology worked out. So hi, everybody. For the new county board members, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Jerry Noiser, the Public Works Director for Manitowoc County, and with me is Janelle Shelton, the Expo Facility Manager. Once a year, we appear before the board to give a report on the preceding year, and that typically happens in the spring of the year. But with the pandemic this year, we kept delaying, thinking we'd be back at the Heritage Center, which hasn't happened yet. So we are presenting, what you're going to see tonight is mostly on 2019 or last year's Expo performance. We hope everybody can see the TV monitors, and like I said, we have that hard copy of the PowerPoint on your table. The Expo facility is one of 5 divisions of Public Works. While some equate it solely with the county fair, we are a 52-week-a-year operation. County Fair is the biggest community event in the county every year, but as you'll hear later in the presentation from Janelle, we have a lot of activity year-round as a facility rental business. We rent our buildings and grounds for events, and as they draw people, that also helps the area businesses like restaurants, gas stations, shopping centers, and hotels that are located nearby. Tonight I'll be presenting the financial report, and Janelle will follow with an operational update. The Expo operations are accounted for in a special revenue fund. Special revenue fund is comprised of 4 activities. 3 of these activities capture revenues, and all 4 record appropriate expenses. None of the activities currently receive tax levy dollars. Expo activities accounts for all events held at the Expo, excluding the fair events and events held in the Ice Center. This activity records both revenues and expenses. The revenues come from building and grounds rentals, camping fees, storage fees, and the expenses are for labor, utilities, maintenance supplies, and maintenance contracts. This activity is always a negative balance activity, as our expenses always outweigh our revenues in this activity. The county fair accounts for all revenues and expenses associated with putting on the county's annual fair. Since the county's fair is our largest revenue generator, a good weather fair versus a rainy weather fair plays an important role in how well we do financially. And 2019 was a very good weather fair. Expo maintenance and improvements accounts for all the general maintenance and capital improvements to the Expo grounds, excluding those associated with identifiable items or programs related to Expo activities, the fair, or the Ice Center. Basically, this is our capital improvements activity. Only expenses are recorded in this activity unless property taxes were to be levied, which again, they have not since 2005. Or we garner revenue through the sale of excess property or an insurance reimbursement if we would have an insurance claim. This activity is also where we are accounting for the improvements made with the Meyer land sale proceeds. And the last activity in the special revenue fund is the ice center, which accounts for all revenues and expenses associated with the ice center facility and the programs and events that take place within it. Revenue comes from renting the facility to the ice center user groups, which are hockey and figure skating, and for dry floor building rentals in the off-season. Expenses in this activity are for labor and utilities and building maintenance and improvements. This slide are the audited results of the Expo Special Revenue Fund by activity for 2019. As you'll see with the bottom line, overall, it was a very good year for the Expo, with finances for the year showing a positive balance of $23,540. Next slide. 2019 was a very busy year for capital improvements at the Expo, another very busy year, with almost $700,000 spent on site building and infrastructure improvements. Major projects included developing the new east parking lot and main gate, purchasing and installing new bleachers for the grandstand area, installing new HVAC units in this building, installing a new midway electrical service, replacing and installing about $100,000 of asphalt, and many other smaller projects as listed in the 6-year capital plan. While we will not have a 2020 county fair this year, we did complete about $170,000 of capital improvements that were budgeted for 2020 as were listed on the capital plan. This next slide graphically shows the amount of money spent on capital outlay at the Expo since the county took over operations in 2005. As you see, from 2005 to 2015, very little money was spent. The proceeds from the Meyer land sale allowed us to make significant improvements over the past 5 years. 2019 is the orange bar on that graph, and it is, oh, I'm sorry, that's 2020, that's this year. The line before it was 2019, which was the last year of big dollar facility improvements. Spending has dropped significantly between last year and this year, and we predict that all spending from the land sale revenue account will end by the year 2025. Slide 6, this chart shows the revenue balance from the 2016 land sale to Meyer, with the black line intersecting is on year-end 2020. At the end of our capital improvement plan in 2025, when we plan to stop spending from this fund, we predict there'll still be $1.5 million remaining for future generations to operate the Expo facility in County Fair. This pie chart shows where the land sale proceeds money has been spent. $1,258,000 has been spent on site work, which includes things like parking lot development, the grandstand area, asphalt, gravel road repair, and site fencing. $710,000 has been spent on building replacements for the multi-purpose Horserama building, the CP Feeds Dairy Cattle Barn, the grandstand announcers building, and all the ticket booths. It should be noted, the buildings listed were significantly more costly than the $710,000 that we spent, but Janelle was able to leverage this seed money with community supporters to get bigger and better buildings with more amenities. $311,000 were spent on infrastructure replacements and improvements, such as new electrical services, underground water, and sewer infrastructure. $211,000 on existing building improvements like new roofs, new door systems, HVAC equipment, and security camera installations. Again, this leaves the reserve fund balance at the end of this year at $1,871,000. That wraps up the boring part of the presentation, the financial report. I will turn it over to Janelle.
Hello, everybody. My name is Janelle Shelton, and I'm the facility manager here at the Expo grounds, and I have been here now 13 years. And I want to first do a shout out to Bill Jones for getting our system up and running for us, just so I can have some visual aids for you, as well as Jessica, thank you for printing out all of the paperwork that I needed, so it's easier for you to see. As Jerry had talked about, we had capital projects that were completed, and as reported, we've had major projects completed in 2019 as well as 2020. And this is partly due to the sale of the property, but also from the support of the community. I want to go on to just, if you don't mind, have to multitask here. Sorry about that. Here we go. AmeriCollect is one of our examples that I have for community support. They're a new one for this year, and it's an example that is a larger one for us. Although AmeriCollect is already an annual supporter of the Manitowoc County Fair, they have become our newest building naming rights sponsor, which is this building that you're in right now, and it's called the AmeriCollect Merchants Building. The $37,000 naming rights agreement allowed us to completely replace the ceiling tiles that you see above. So if you look up ahead, those are the ceiling tiles that we were able to replace. They weren't very nice, they were falling apart, and we were able to, with part of that money, to invest into the building. Because of this partnership, we were able to remove this from our 2022 future capital projects. We will also be putting the remaining funds next year towards another part of the building that needs extension and work. As you all are aware, Meyer purchased the property that and has constructed the building to the east of the Expo property. This was a large partnership and a definite benefit to the Expo. With that being said, we have been working with Meyer to partner on digital signs as well as become an annual fair sponsor. You may have noticed the two new digital signs that are at the entrances of the Ice Center main gate, as well as the Merchants main gate, or the Merchants Gate entrance. This partnership by Meyer of $50,000 helped us to place these digital signs. For my own curiosity, I decided to see how we have done over the past 10 years between major donors, campaigns, and fair sponsorships. And in doing so and researching back, I'm happy to announce we have raised over $900,000, and with $570,000 being raised since the Meyer sale. It's hard to multitask here. Fair sponsors that I want to talk about since 2007, which I started back in 2007, the fair support has gone from $13,500, including in-kind donations, to over $40,000 since 2016. These supporters see what we see, the pride, the youth, and all the Expo provides financially to the community. I want to go on to the next slide, which shows CP Feeds, which CP Feeds is our dairy cattle barn naming rights sponsor, but they're also an annual milk parlor fair sponsor. We also had other people that contributed to the support and the construction of the dairy cattle barn. So instead of being a $500,000 dairy cattle barn, it was now a $700,000. So I want to recognize Ruth St. John and John Denham West Foundation, Valley Building Systems, Wisconsin Public Service Foundation, Investors Community Bank, Orion Agricultural Division, Manitowoc County Dairy Promotion, Greenstone Farm Credit Services, and Hammond Construction. We also had constructed new ticket booths. There was one at our Ice Center entrance, as well as at our Merchants Gate entrance. ACE Building Services partnered with us to construct one of the ticket booths for us, as well as doing both of them, but one of them as a donation. And they're also an annual supporter of the Manitowoc County Fair. This year, for the new main gate entrance that we have 2 ticket booths that were constructed, and Hammond Construction was a supporter of that construction, as well as an annual supporter of the Manitowoc County Fair. And I'm going through these today just to let you know how much support we get from the community. I think it's really important to see that although we have the funds in the capital budget, we do have quite a bit of support from the community. And another one, as Jerry had alluded to, was Horsorama. They were a large partner of the multi-purpose building, and they also, if you drive back out the Merchants Gate entrance or exit on your way out, you'll see we have a new fence. Because of that partnership with Horsorama, they were able to construct a new horse arena fence, and you'll see that as you drive tonight. Other multi-purpose building supporters, again, was Ruth St. John and John Denham West Foundation, Orion, Investors Community Bank, and Valley Building Systems. A few years ago, I had worked with Budweiser, which is Larry's Distributing, as well as Festival Foods, to construct the digital sign that is on Rapids Road. Larry's Distributing is also an annual fair supporter. Festival Foods has also been an annual fair supporter and was looking this year at coming back and supporting us again. I have a lot to talk about. So anyways, events. I just want to remind everybody, and Jerry had said, we're a 52-week year-round facility. We get used for receptions, which are quinceañeras, receptions for weddings. We have a lot of other events that we have. So the picture that you have in your booklet, as well as that's displayed, is just a setup of this building when somebody has a reception of some sort. We had Cirque Italia that was here last year. It was a big circus that was out on the main part of the Expo property. Horse-orama has an annual event that they use the multi-purpose building as well as the horse arena. And they also have another event that uses this building, the Merchants Building. The Northeast Wisconsin Dog Show Classic is an event that happens in April. They use a number of our buildings, and it's one of our largest events and one of the biggest revenue generators that we have. So they use the Ice Center, they use this building, the Merchants Building, they use our exhibition building, as well as our small animal building. So they use a number of our grounds, plus we garner revenue from camping as well. We have the District Holstein Show that uses our dairy cattle barn, our multi-purpose building. They've also used our Ice Center. We've used the Ice Center during the Dairy Futurity Show during the Week of Fair, as well as all of the other cattle shows that we have during the Week of Fair. The Home Show is a 2-day event, and they actually use our Ice Center. They've talked about using our Merchants Building for their events in the future, but as of right now, they do come in and they host a 2-day event. Manitowoc JCs host their Brew Fest in this building here. And I'm sure a number of you know about the Wall That Heals. They were here this last year and used our Merchants Building, as well as have the Wall That Heals out on the south part of our property, on the north side of the grandstand area. The Anthill Mob Bike Show and Dance is another 2-day event. They typically use the Ice Center as well as the Merchants Building, but they sometimes use the Exhibition Building depending on what year it is. If it's a 30th annual celebration or if it's a 40th, then they look at extending their event out and using another building. So, just to give you a little bit of information on the 2021 Manitowoc County Fair, the dates are already set for August 25th through the 29th. We are rolling over our theme for this next year to be the Stars, Stripes, and Fair Delights. We do have 21 volunteer members, and that includes Kevin Banky, Bob Kavanaugh, where's Bob? There he is over there, and Ken Sitkowitz, who is a new member on our Expo Ice Center board. These volunteers, the 21 volunteers, attend monthly meetings. They participate in working groups, and their main responsibility is preparing and working during the county fair, but it's an all year round. Typically right after the county fair is complete, we come in that next month and they start working and planning on what they want to do better for the following year. And we're always looking for volunteers and board members. You can look, we do have some openings right now for board members, and if you know somebody who has a very big passion for the county fair, they can go to our website at manitowoccounty.com/fair. And again, as I told you about the dates, and I just want to remind everybody, as previously noted, we receive support in both check and in kind, typically of over $45,000 from fair sponsors. So now I'd like to introduce our newest Fairest of the Fair. She was our 2020 Fairest of the Fair, but is rolling over into the 2021 Manitowoc County Fairest of the Fair. This is Lydia Lipke. and I will bring her up so she can have a few comments for you. She is our official ambassador. She attends parades, radio shows, meetings, and of course, her biggest job is attending the Manitowoc County Fair.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank you for having me tonight. My name is Lydia Lipke, and I was selected to serve as the 2020 Manitowoc County Fairest of the Fair. Due to the global pandemic, we canceled fair this year. However, I'm excited to announce that I will serve as the 2021 Fairest of the Fair. I grew up in Kiel on my parents' and grandparents' dairy farm, where I fell in love with the agricultural industry. I'm currently entering my senior year at the University of Wisconsin River Falls, and in spring I will earn my degree in dairy science and agricultural business. I currently work at Devon Acres as a milker, and in my free time I try to spend as much time with my family as possible. Participating at the Manitowoc County Fair is a family tradition, and my family has a 30-year plus tradition of showing at this fair. I grew up showing dairy calves and kitty showmanship, and then transitioned into the market animal program, where I showed market hogs and sheep for the past 12 years. Fair holds many special memories for me, and I look forward to being part of the memories of the next generation of fairgoers and participants. I am currently working with the Operations Committee to bring new ideas and events to the fair. I'm looking forward to seeing you all at the 2021 Manitowoc County Fair for Stars, Stripes, and Fair Delights, August 25th through the 29th. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, Lydia. Before you go, is there any questions for Lydia at this time? First of all, congratulations once again. One moment. And I guess I want to give you a standing ovation, but thank you for sticking around once again for next year. Okay, I did see Supervisor Hagan had a question, if you don't mind, quickly. 5-second rule, there we go.
I have 3 daughters. What does it cost for a reception here?
What we can do is we can talk about it, of course, but the 2021 rates, I think, is like $1,300 plus tax. There is a $500 deposit that's required at signing. It includes your tables, your chairs, the kitchen area, and the dumpsters, but we can definitely talk about that. I'd be happy to entertain that with anybody that's interested. And you can always call the office. Okay.
Thank you, Supervisor Hagan. Are there any other questions for Janelle or for anybody for that matter?
Well, I just wanted to say I truly appreciate you allowing me to present tonight. I'm looking forward to another year of Expo grounds improvements. I look forward to seeing you at next year's county board meeting to talk about all of the capital improvements that we're going to be doing, as well as the 2021 Manitowoc County Fair. And that's my little granddaughter, Emma Grace. So I had to put her up on the screen to tell you thank you very much for everything.
And thank you, Janelle and Jerry, as well. And if you've noticed tonight, some of you probably have enjoyed them already, we have cream puffs in honor of the county fair, a tradition that's been
Had to bring them.
with county fairs. And Janelle purchased them herself, so thank you once again. A round of applause for Janelle as well. I wish I would have known that though, because I would have sponsored a contest after the county board meeting, because we won't have it, but that's all right. Obviously teasing, but we could still do it, yes. Thank you all very much, very, very much. Continue your hard work, and as well, and the Expo board as well. I'm sorry, Expo Ice Center board.
I would give another cream puff for the contest.
I have more. We have a few left.
All right, we're gonna move on to public comment. If there's anybody from the public wishing to speak to any matter germane to Manitowoc County, please raise your hand. I will call on you. You come up to the podium. The microphone will be wiped. As I mentioned, please turn it on and wait about 5 seconds for it to start. Just give your name and address, and you'll be allowed to speak about 3 minutes. Yes, sir, in the front row. I apologize, Eric, I didn't realize that was you had, my glasses on, so.
That's okay, mine get foggy, I can't see either. My name's Eric Zikowitz, 4559 East Whitetail Court, Manitowoc. I just wanted to talk tonight about process. For those of you who do know me and those of you that don't, I'm really process driven, and I think the county has one of the greatest processes in place because it comes down to accountability. When all of you were elected, you signed up for a county email system. And this is your form. And it says at the bottom, the county board rules stipulate that all email communications related to your position as county board supervisor must be conducted through a county provided email address. If you choose to not have a county email address, you may not conduct county business on any other email account. So sometimes it can be difficult for elected officials to separate when you're in your official capacity and when you're not. I get that. So when you use a private email address and identify yourself as the county supervisor, in the signature line, you're conducting county business. And the taxpayers pay for that county email, and it's accountability for open records. The press is here tonight. People file open record requests on county email all the time. If I were to file one and ask about an email address at donwzimmer@gmail.com, that's not a county email address. There was an email that was used by County Supervisor Zimmer on July 22nd. I think we all know the content of that email. However, there's also another one that on March 4th, where he talks about the Marine Sanctuary from donwzimmer@gmail.com. So those are two instances that we know what Supervisor Zimmer thinks because he put it in an email. But I'm more concerned about what we don't know, what we don't have access to. As supervisors, you all have accountability to your constituents for what you say and what you type in your email system. And when you skirt the open records law, that's a problem. And it puts a dark shroud over the county board that really limits the great work that this body can and does do. If you don't hold that accountable, that's really sad. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Eric. Is there anybody else wishing to speak to the county board this evening? Anyone? Yes, ma'am, in the front row. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I must be second. I apologize. From this angle, look you all sit in a straight line. I apologize for that.
Okay. Margaret Powell, 5437 Preston Road. What matters is what is on paper, not what you say. If you're not going to do something such as isolated housing for infected or at-risk individuals, why are you asking the state to give you $2,263,769 between the CARES and Routes to Recovery funding? Based on the August 17th number of 212 active cases, that is $10,678.16 per person with the COVID virus. And you are not even providing any medical care except testing with this money, the way I understand it. Why isn't the CARES money enough? If contact tracers are paid $30 an hour, you have 23,121 hours to do contact tracing this year. Also, I'm very concerned, our health department director stated less than a month ago at the meeting, she had the needed personnel and supplies, and now is requesting that the board approve between the two resolutions, $2,263,769. What changed? Also, where are other citizens concerned about our rights in this still situation? People literally risk their lives every day, and citizens I talk to don't like public speaking. I'm not impressed. Please, stand up against big government spending. It is your job as an American to be involved in our government. Also, I'm concerned with the Board of Supervisors seeming to pass so much unanimously. Why are there no differences of opinion in this government body during votes? Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments, Margaret. Is there anybody else wishing to speak to the county board this evening? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Robin Walters, Westwood Lane in Manitowoc. I'm a retired healthcare professional, and I want to voice my concerns related to the route to recovery funding. I'm alarmed to see funding for temporary isolation housing. In Manitowoc County, 3.6% of those who were tested positive. In a population of approximately 80,000 people, that is 0.5%. Fortunately for us, there has only been one death in Manitowoc, which gives us a 0.00125% chance of dying from COVID in Manitowoc County. The reason I quote these numbers is to put into perspective our response to this situation. According to the CDC, during the 2018 season, the percentage of deaths attributed to pneumonia and influenza was at or above the epidemic threshold for 16 consecutive weeks, with the national mortality peaking at 10.8% in January of 2018. And what was our response then? Absolutely none of the actions that we have taken now. Our initial goal was to protect the most vulnerable from dying and keeping hospitals from being overwhelmed, which we have. We are no longer focusing on tracking death rates, which were consistently decreasing, so we switched to tracking cases. Although Travis Walk stated at the last meeting that locally our testing rate has remained relatively stable, that is not the case in the rest of the country. In other places, there is door-to-door testing in neighborhoods and state-funded free testing for anyone. This is important because at that form of questionable testing increases, the positives have increased. And this dictates policy from high up as the CDC, and those policies trickle down and are enforced at the local level. Yet locally, despite an incredibly low death rate and keeping our hospitals so underwhelmed that workers were furloughed due to low hospitalization numbers, restrictions and mandates are continuing to be imposed. We've seen overreach by our governor, lockdowns, the closing of churches, and seemingly questionable policies put in place, such as wearing a mask into and out of a restaurant, but not when being seated and eating in the restaurant. The majority of our local citizens are in absolute utter state of fear because these numbers are not being put into context. We're told the ultimate endgame is a rush to market vaccine, to which the pharmaceutical industry and the manufacturers have zero liability for any negative consequences that come to those who choose to take it. As we see every year with the influenza vaccine, its rate of effectiveness can be as low as 6%, yet this is our endgame. Which brings me to my concern over the $1.3 million in reimbursable expenses, which includes temporary isolation housing for infected or at-risk individuals. I am certain at this time that there is no immediate plan to set up any temporary isolation housing, but sometimes with the overreaching of government leaders in response to a situation, as I've listed above, I have great reservation that science and unemotional response to the situation is not possible, so I do not support this funding. What are the specific details pertaining to this activity? For example, is this voluntary?
Robin, you have
What
about
about
one more minute yet. You have about 1 minute.
Okay. What are the specific details pertaining to this activity? For example, is this voluntary? What about infected children with non-infected parents? After what we've all been through this year, I find it impossible to trust that common sense, scientific data, and our freedoms as citizens will be held first and foremost. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments, Robin. Is there anybody else wishing to speak this evening to the county board? Anyone else wishing to speak? And for a third and final time, anybody else wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'll declare public comment closed. Communications are shown on the agenda. There is no unfinished business from our last meeting, so we'll move on to appointments by the county executive. First up is the Traffic Safety Commission to appoint one member to succeed Joe Collins, and the recommendation is for Brian Kohlmeyer. Motion by Supervisor Aulick, second by Supervisor Henriksen to appoint. Any discussion? See none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much on that appointment. We will move on to committee reports, and like I said, we're gonna go a little out of order tonight, but we're gonna start with Planning and Park Commission. Supervisor Dizak is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met on August 3rd. We did public hearings. We're done for 4 zone requests and also on the comprehensive plan update. And I'll get to those ordinances in a little bit. We also had a discussion on a proposed utility easement on the Devils River State Trail. After discussion, it was decided to send the proposed easement to corporate counsel for his review. We then discussed and approved sending 2 separate ordinance violations to corporate counsel for enforcement. We then had a discussion on a proposed fee schedule for 2021 with no fee increases, which passed unanimously. That brings me to the resolutions. The first is the ordinance amending Manitowoc County Code adopting the 20-year comprehensive plan update, which was presented here tonight, and I move for its approval.
Motion by Supervisor Dizak, second by Supervisor Falkowski to approve the ordinance. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Okay, next is the ordinance for the Newmeyer Revocable Trust to rezone approximately 2.29 acres from exclusive ag to small estate. The area to be considered for rezoning meets past criteria set by the commission for rezoning land from exclusive ag. The Eaton Town Board supports the proposed change, and the rezone will allow for a new home construction. No farmland will be affected by this request, as the entire area is grass and brush, and I move for its approval.
So motion by Supervisor Dizak, seconded by Supervisor Vogt. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Okay, next is the Canard Marie Wagner request to rezone approximately 1.75 acres from exclusive ag to rural residential. Okay, the area to be considered for rezoning and meet the past criteria. The Manitowoc Rapids Town Board and the Town Planning Commission support the proposed zone change, and the rezone will allow the property owner's home to be separate from the farmland, and I move for its approval.
So motion by Supervisor Dizak, second by Supervisor Kavanaugh. Discussion on the motion. See none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Next is the Lucille Koenig request to rezone approximately 20.65 acres from exclusive ag to general ag. Okay, the area to be considered meets past criteria. The Mimi Town Board and Town Planning Commission support the change. The rezone will allow the property to be used to build a retirement home. No farmland will be affected, as the requested area is entirely wooded, and I move for its approval.
So motion by Supervisor Dizak, second by Supervisor Hagan. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Finally, the George and Angela Mueller request to rezone approximately 5 acres from exclusive ag to large estate. The area to be considered meets past criteria. The Michigan Town Board supports the proposed change. The rezone allows the property to be used for a future home, and once again, no farmland is affected, as it is entirely a wooded area, and I move for its approval.
So motion by Supervisor Dizak, seconded by Supervisor Marish. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Okay, that's it. Our next meeting is on August 24th at the county office complex, 3:30 advisory and 4:30 meeting. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Any questions for Supervisor Dizak? very busy month, I see, that was good, so nothing wrong with that, it's progress, so good job. And good job to Clarion Park as well. Tim and your staff, wonderful job as always. All right, we're gonna go to Supervisor Wagner next, but Aging and Disability Resource Center Board, and we'll also stick with land conservation, so we'll start with Aging and Disability. Supervisor Wagner is the chair.
Thank you, and good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. The ADRC and Commission on Aging had their first meeting with all the new members from both counties with an online option. Next meeting will be September 29th, starting at 10 a.m. Meeting location and or online will be determined before that meeting. The Land Conservation Committee will be meeting this Thursday for a short agenda to approve some cost share contracts that were not available last month. And that will be at 4:35 p.m. at the County Office Complex. And the next meeting will be, the next regular meeting will be September 17th at 4:45 at the County Office Complex. The UW Extension, Education, and Agriculture Committee will be meeting this Thursday, the 20th of August at the County Office Complex. That's the end of my report. Thank you.
Any questions for Supervisor Wagner? Thank you very much. Board of Health, Supervisor Nestor is the chair, but we're going to give it to Supervisor Nichols tonight to give the report. Just a reminder, try to hold the mic as close as possible to your mouth.
Okay, here we go. The Board of Health met on Thursday, June 11th. We received a coronavirus update. There's one nurse that retired and 4 new nurses have been hired. The staff is divided into 3 teams to provide holiday and weekend coverage. They've been following up with positive cases within 28 hours and close contact within 48 hours. One of the challenges is that not everyone is truthful in their contacts, so that's been very challenging for them. In addition to keeping up with workplace and large gathering outbreaks, as well as keeping up with normal public health activities and communicable diseases. Mary Holiday gave the communicable disease report, and you'll all be happy to know that the overall number of chlamydia cases has decreased over the last 2 months. Then we discussed we'll have 2 resolutions, the funding that the Board of Health is looking for, to explain the routes to recovery funding from the state. This money comes from the Federal CARES Act, Coronavirus Relief Fund. It can be used to reimburse expenses that are incurred. So we have to incur the expenses, we pay for those up front, and then we request reimbursement for that. And again, I'll be bringing that up when I'm done here. She also explained the resolution accepting the CARES Act funding. And that again is money that we have to incur it, we have to apply for that reimbursement. And just so you know, the CARES Act funding, a lot of government entities that have applied for that haven't received that yet. So we're all kind of waiting for that, for any reimbursement on that. Mary gave us the WIC report. For July, we had a caseload of 943 participants. The contracted caseload is 1,067. So it's likely that the state is going to reduce our contract because we've been staying under that 1,000 number and we've been roughly about 950. The seasonal farmers market vouchers are being used this year for families. Each eligible family receives a $30 voucher. Our next meeting will be on September 10th. And I do have 2 resolutions. First one will be the resolution accepting the routes to recovery funding. And just so you're aware, we have to incur those expenses in order to request reimbursement. And those are for the following categories: increased workers' compensation costs due to COVID-19, medical and protective services and equipment, temporary isolation housing for infected or at-risk individuals, and testing and contact tracing costs above those covered by existing state programs. And I so move.
So motion by Supervisor Nichols, seconded by Supervisor Mink. Discussion on the resolution. We'll start with Supervisor Shimalonis. Make sure you keep it as close to your mouth as possible.
I will. Okay, I'm kind of new, so I'm not understanding everything. I'm curious why this is costing so much, especially because we don't seem to have that many cases compared to some places. I mean, are you actually bringing people in to work here into the county? I've heard some places are doing that. Are you bringing outside nurses and so on to work here?
Bob, Dave, Supervisor Nichols, you can certainly respond, but Bob, if you want to address it, you're certainly welcome to come up to the podium.
Yeah, I can. Again, as I explained, we have to incur the expenses. So we're not bringing anyone in unless it's necessary. We're not doing any of these functions unless it's absolutely necessary. We aren't receiving $1.3 million unless we incur that in expenses. That money has been made available by the federal government to local health departments throughout the nation. So we can ask for up to $1.3 million if we incur it. If we incur nothing, we won't be able to request anything. Does that answer your question?
No. I understand that you have to incur it. What I'm curious about, I don't understand why you have to spend it. Is it really that,
Mr. Chairman, why doesn't she have a microphone?
Yes, you are correct, Supervisor Zimmer. Hold on. Yes, please, Supervisor Shimalonis, use the microphone, please.
I will. I understand that you have to incur in order to get it back from the federal government. It just, I don't know how to ask the question because it just seems so curious that there's so much money spent in this area when hospitals were being closed down for other areas of care during the crisis times. That's what is confusing to me.
Well, that question has to be answered by the local health director. That isn't something that I can answer for you. If you don't support us, the health department, tracing these contacts, doing all of this work, then that's up to you. All I can tell you is that Travis Walk gives a report every day. They're obviously doing work. The numbers are rising.
That's
And
fine,
so, let me finish, okay? I've got the podium right now. So, you hear that. If you don't agree with it, that's entirely up to you. All I'm telling you is that we have expenses that we may incur. We have the ability to receive funding from the federal government so that it's not on the local taxpayers. And we're asking the board to support accepting that if it's available to us.
Were you through, Supervisor Shimalonis? Okay, thank you very much.
I would like to say a little bit, because I am the chair for the Board of Health. We have contracted for nurses to cover some of this because it's too hard. Mary Hollida had put in 130 hours in 1 week, and this has been going on for weeks and weeks and weeks. I mean, this has been going on for a long time, months already. And it's not fair for her to be so overwhelmed and overworked, following all the cases going way back, and then when people aren't telling the truth, where they've all been, where they've contracted the disease, we need to follow up on all of that. And that's what takes so much time, is all of this back tracing. We had to get some retired nurses back that have retired to help us with some of this. And those people need money too. We have to pay everybody that helps with the health department. And as far as like the supplies, we have to have them in case if we need them. But this money is only if we need it. We do do have to have the supplies, that we have to have no matter what, because we don't know what's gonna happen. But if we need more supplies, we know we can get them because we're gonna be reimbursed. So I hope that kind of explains it, but these people are working way over the hours that they're supposed to be working. And they're gonna get reimbursed for some of those hours. You know, the normal hours is 40 hours a week, but probably 45 or 48 because they're salary people. But like I said, we've had to bring in people back that were retired. We are lucky that those people offered to come back to help us through this crisis. So that is where the money is going to be going if we need be. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Metzger, for that wonderful explanation. Next up, Supervisor Hagan, you had your hand up.
Temporary isolation housing for infected or at-risk individuals. Can you clarify on what actually is happening there?
No, I can't give you that information. I don't know the answer to that.
You don't know? Okay.
You know, some of that you have to ask the health director.
Will do.
You know.
Okay. The testing and contact tracing costs, and the contact tracing, is this something that's mandated by law?
Well, we're doing it.
I'm aware of that.
Are you suggesting that we should not be doing any of that?
I'm wondering if it's effective and how effective it is, and has anyone looked at that?
It's effective when the individuals are truthful about where they've been. Certainly it is. Because then it allows us to travel, take the route that the virus has taken. And
Rough percentage of what are we doing, what is it doing in terms of preventing infection and spread and so forth? Give me a rough idea.
You know, again, you ask those questions to the health director.
Will do.
I'm not a health expert.
I understand. Just trying to get clarification. Workers' compensation on this list is going for which workers? County workers, private sector workers? Just clarification.
Yeah, that would be the additional hours that we're working, for example.
Say that again.
The additional hours that all the nurses are
I
working.
understand. Okay. Okay. Yeah, 130 hours is kind of crazy for anybody. I understand that.
I have something to explain with the housing.
Yes, ma'am.
Some of the housing is the nurses that got infected or people that work under the nurses.
That helps.
Because they need to be isolated from their families
I
and
understand.
everybody until they're clear of the virus. Thank you.
That clarification helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hagan. Supervisor Martell, you had your hand up. And then Supervisor Falkowski, you were next, if I saw your hand. Okay.
So I understand that these are expenses that we would have to incur in order for the reimbursement to happen. Did the health director give any indication of how much we have incurred since the start of the pandemic? You know, how much have we spent already of this, 1.3 million and 936,000?
300,000 or so.
Okay, so about 300,000?
Yes.
So comparatively to what the federal government is allocating to us, we're kind of at the low end considering the number of cases that we have.
So that's good.
Potentially. So, and obviously we aren't, I think what some people might be concerned about is, yes, it's grant funding, it's coming from the federal government, and we say it's not being spent for the local taxpayers. Well, local taxpayers fund the federal government and the state government as well. So I trust that the health department is using this money judiciously, that they're not just spending money because they know it'll be reimbursed. But I think as stewards of taxpayer money, we just need to be aware of what the money's being spent on, even if it's not directly taxed by us to local taxpayers. So thanks for letting us know how much has been spent so far.
Thank you, Supervisor Martell. I guess technically, if you want to think about this, is all borrowed money to the federal government, so it's not really our tax dollars either, so we'll go that way, rough direction as well. Supervisor Falkowski, you were next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The expenditures are generally a forecasted variable. You're looking at it as saying what you're forecasting as expenses for increased workers, medical protection, etc. That's what this then a second question that's related to this is the next resolution that deals with the CARES Act, is that not items that are reimbursed for the items that you're talking about? The PPEs and things like that?
Well, the motion is for the first resolution, not the second one.
True.
So I'll explain that when we
Right,
get to
that's
that.
what I was gonna say too, let's hold the discussion to the original resolution.
But again, so that everybody heard, the answer to your first question is no. There are no dollar amounts in here. We're eligible for up to that amount if we incur, as I said, if we incur that. But we don't have any dollar amounts listed that we're anticipating spending in this first resolution.
So you don't have any hard forecasted numbers. These are possible numbers that you're going to incur because of the expenditure.
No.
You have expenditures.
No, the government is allowing us to request up to $1.3 million in expenses. But we don't have a forecast in here. We're not listing any dollars in the first resolution that we might spend or that we're anticipating spending. We're allowed to spend or to receive up to $1.3 million. If we spend $2 million, then we have to come up with the other $700,000. We don't know how much we're going to spend at this point. And if there is an estimate, talk to Mary Holland about that, because I would have no idea if she's done that. I assume she has, probably. All the departments do that, of course, but I wouldn't be aware of that. It's not in the resolution, though.
What kind of timeline is on this resolution when you have to act? I see that the
Expenses are from March 1st to November 6th.
So basically, you would have time. If in fact there's questions about people wanting to talk to the health director, then maybe this should be tabled and discussed next month. My suggestion.
Thank you for your comments, Supervisor Falkowski. Is there any other discussion on the motion to adopt this resolution? Supervisor Zimmer, you are next. It will be coming, you can only move so fast at one time, so hold your horses, everyone.
I'm really skeptical about this. I think somebody from the health department ought to come here and give us definite answers. Is it Supervisor Nichols that is proposing the resolution? Is that who was talking?
It is coming from the Board of Health, and Supervisor Nichols made the motion to approve tonight.
Okay, that's fine. I just think that we're not getting any concrete answers to this, and because this is so important, somebody from the health department ought to be here and tell us exactly the answers that reasonable people have sought. So I'm opposing this measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Zimmer. I usually don't ask this, but Bob, would you like to come up and address some of this? Because I'll be honest with you, this is turning into foolishness. This is utterly ridiculous.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Thank you. It's confusing because we're getting money from other units of government. The federal government appropriated $1 trillion, I think, in the first resolution that they acted on to the states.
Can you hold it a little bit closer?
Okay.
Thank you.
And then the governor of our state appropriated money to all the counties and all the jurisdictions that are spending money to fight the COVID-19 virus. That was the first one, the first appropriation, and it's money that we can get reimbursed for specific activities until November 6th. The plan is that if the COVID-19 crisis goes on for a long time, that
money will be appropriated from the federal government to the state, to the counties additionally. But this is the first one, the first appropriation that we've received. And we are only signing up and getting ready to submit our claims. We've only got $300,000 or so of spending money, spent money for now, but we don't know how long it's gonna last. And we're just getting ready to get in line to get the appropriations from the federal government and the state government. The next resolution is very much like that. It's the first batch of money, but if there's more appropriations because the COVID-19 crisis lasts longer, we expect that there will be another round of this. And we're just getting in line to file the claims, and we've got the controller working on this, Mary Hollida is working on this, Travis Walk is working on this, and we've got a lot of manpower doing all the things we have to do. I think that's the explanation.
Thank you very much, Bob. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Supervisor Aulick, you were next, followed by Supervisor Hanson.
Another key point to this is what's being reimbursed, or possibly reimbursed, is unbudgeted spent county money. If you don't approve this resolution, all of a sudden the county is in a $300,000 hole of money that they have spent already and not been reimbursed for and counting. So I think it's behoove of us as supervisors who are charged with oversight of the county government to make sure that we don't put our own county in a tough financial position going forward for things we're spending money on that are unbudgeted. That's my point, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Aulick. Supervisor Hanson, you are next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've all been around here a long time. I don't know Mr. Ziegelbauer is the kind of person who is going to spend money that take advantage of spending money that we don't need. This is a virus that is costing us additional dollars. It's money that we paid as taxpayers to the federal government that came back to the state, and now we have an opportunity to take some of that money and cover some of our costs. I trust the health department. Those people know what they're doing. I'm a county board supervisor. I don't get that stuff. Those people know what they're doing. Trust them. They're professional. And you've got an executive overseeing that operation to make sure that the money is spent wisely. We need to just vote this, approve it, and get it done.
Thank you, Supervisor Hanson. Let's see, Supervisor Falkowski, you're next, followed by Supervisor Zimmer. I guess if it's all right with, oh, you have a microphone, okay, I'm sorry. Please. Turn it on, 5 seconds, like I've been saying for 2 months. There we go.
In regard to the reimbursement, is that an absolute guarantee that everything, all the expenses right now or forecasted will in fact be intrinsically reimbursed by the federal government? I'm saying this in one regard because I thought at some of the local government meetings that some of the people that are applying under another CARES Act have not yet received their reimbursements for their expenditures. So if in fact we're trying to protect our expenditure, is this a real And I'm not opposed to the reasons why this is working, but I'm very candid about the fact that it sounds like it's gonna be reimbursed, but it is not a guaranteed reimbursement for all the expenses you can submit. Is that correct or false? And that's my only point. I can see the parallelness, and which is why I thought, at least for resolution 2117, I wouldn't be okay to table this, to actually talk to the health department about what's going on with what is being reimbursed. So to that extent, I make a motion to table this resolution.
There's been a motion by Supervisor Falkowski. Is there a second to table this resolution? Seeing none, the motion failed. On to the discussion of the motion. Supervisor Zimmer, you were next on the list.
Because of increased debate, due to the reasonable questions that people asked, things were cleared up, especially by County Executive Ziegelbauer and Supervisor Olive. If we hadn't asked these questions, further debate wouldn't have ensued and things wouldn't have cleared up like I think they have. I'm just wondering, Mr. Chairman, why did you say this is ridiculous? I don't think further debate is ridiculous at all, and I'm surprised you would characterize it as such. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Supervisor Zimmer, and I will address that at the end because usually I do have my comments last. Supervisor Mink, you are next.
Test one, test two. One of the things I really like about this is that, yes, it is federal money, but it's being spent by local government and by people that are here. All right? Yeah, we're trying to take care of the hole in our budget, but also we're going to spend that money way better than the federal government will. We'll make sure the best use of that money takes place. That's all I got.
Thank you, Supervisor Mink. Supervisor Hagan, you are next, followed by Supervisor Metzger. Supervisor Hagan.
I'm sorry? We have a 2 or 3 time rule. We got it in the rules. I have that rolling on.
Good feedback from other supervisors, so I like the input. Also from our wonderful county executive, Mr. Bob, who is very efficient with his budget dollars. I'm going to vote in favor of this tonight, this time. But I'm also going to be sending some emails to get some clarification on the effectiveness and what we're doing to Mariel Kapiba. Just so that I have a better understanding of what this is going towards. 300,000 plus has already been spent. This is the way that will be reimbursed. Not approving this isn't going to solve the national debt problem. It will prevent our budget from getting robbed by a $300,000 plus bill we've already incurred that isn't budgeted. So I'm going to go ahead and vote in favor of it, with the understanding, of course, that I will be making inquiries and asking questions and getting some more information from my constituents. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hagan. Supervisor Metzger.
I'd like to call the question, please.
Question's been called. Is there any objection to the motion? Call the question means that we're going to vote. If there's no objection, we will move immediately to a vote. There's no need for a second, so there's no objection, we will move on to the vote. All those in favor of the motion to approve the resolution, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We have one. Will the noes raise their hand just to make sure? So Supervisor Falkowski voted no, so it'll be 24-1 of the motion passes. On to the next resolution.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks for all the assistance. County Executive Ziegelbauer and the supervisors who stepped up and helped out, because I didn't have all the information and provided better information than I had. And Supervisor Hagan, please send those emails to the health director and not to me, because I won't be able to help you with them. So, Mary Holiday.
Okay, yeah, that was the intent.
Okay, the second resolution I have is one accepting coronavirus aid, relief, and economic security CARES Act funding. Again, this comes from the CARES Act, the Federal CARES Act through the state of Wisconsin. There are 5 different categories listed with the amounts where we could receive funding up to that amount for pandemic planning, community testing coordination, contact tracing, emergency preparedness, and laboratory capacity. And to answer Supervisor Falkowski's concerns, if we don't request the funding, we can't get it. So, you were wondering about whether or not we'd actually receive it. Well, if we don't approve it, we're not going to get it. And I would move to accept the resolution.
So motion by Supervisor Nichols, second by Supervisor Ballman to approve the resolution. Discussion on the motion. Seeing, Supervisor Shimolis. No, you're gonna wait for mine. Go. Okay.
I just want to make a comment. I'm new, and I don't understand everything that's going on. If I don't ask these questions that are in my head, how can I vote yes or no on a resolution? I have asked some people questions through email and have not always gotten an answer. Maybe I'll always ask Ms. Metzger. She seems to know what's going on.
Thank you, Supervisor Shimolis. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried unanimously. Anything else, Supervisor Nichols? Linda, I think we're gonna get you a pair of jogging shoes.
Okay, unless there's any other questions, again, our next meeting will be on Thursday, September 10th. And then I'll also do public safety right away. We did not meet in August, we will have a meeting on Wednesday, September 9th.
Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions for Supervisor Nichols on Board of Health or Public Safety for that matter? All right. Thank you very much. Criminal Justice Coordinating Counselor Supervisor Falkowski will be giving a report.
Thank you. We did not meet. We will have another meeting on September 2nd. But look for information regarding the in-person or Zoom meeting details to be posted. I have no other report.
Any questions for Supervisor Falkowski? Thank you very much. Executive Committee, as I'm sure you all know, last week the Executive Committee met in this same building last Thursday to discuss the conduct of a County Board Supervisor. After much testimony and discussion, the committee took no action. Just to comment further, I guess, to a point, and as far as I'm concerned, is that the portion's over and the process worked, and that's the way it was supposed to work. Also, just as a heads up for next month, I am looking at, unless there's something big on the agenda, I am looking at moving back to the county boardroom at Michigan Avenue. We'll have to do social distancing, obviously, some people will have to be at tables, but unless there's nothing with, I guess, controversial or that's gonna require a big audience, I would like to move back there at least next month, and if nothing gets worse, I guess I'll be obviously talking with Mary Holiday and with Jerry Noiser about that discussion, and we'll go from there. So look for that. As part of that discussion, I'll get a heads up as well. I don't know if I sent out to everybody an email, but I was contacted several months ago by a representative in Senator Lemieux, Devin Lemieux, who's the 9th District State Senator for this area. The WCA, which is also known as the Wisconsin Counties Association, is going to present him with Legislator of the Year. So it's pretty nice that a legislator from our area is going to be presented with that award. They asked if they could be presented at the county board meeting. I said, sure, of course, we welcome that. So that is being planned for September right now, and we'll go from there. Obviously, things could change, but the plan is to have that in September at the county board meeting, that presentation. That's all I have. Any questions at this time? All right, thank you very much. Expo Ice Center Board and Supervisor Kavanaugh will be giving the report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Expo Center Board met Wednesday, August 12th. We approved an amended contract with Rainbow Rally Rides, which will run through the 2022 fair now instead of the 2021. We were given estimates of some of the loss of revenue we're gonna have this year. This was given by Jerry Nizer, because of not having the fair and so many of the events that took place during the course of the year have been canceled. Operations Subcommittee told us about 2 events that are going to be held in August for the junior exhibitors, and we all know that's really an important part of the fair. There's going to be a dairy show coming up this weekend, sponsored by the Hosting Association for the juniors. It's going to be on Friday and Saturday. Friday, they're going to have a showmanship contest for the kids, and then Saturday, they're actually going to show their animals and compete for ribbons. Also, the Market Animal Show, they're going to have this the 31st of August, and it's going to be sponsored by the Market Animal Committee. There's 47 exhibitors that are going to show 65 animals, and most of the exhibitors already have made arrangements with different people to buy their animals. Different ones, businesses that were at the fairs in former years. There were letters sent out to them, and it really worked out good for the kids here. Most of the sponsorships that we have, Janelle referred to some of those tonight, that we have for the 2020 fair will be carried over to the 2021 fair. And we were told that night that out of 77 fairs that are held throughout the state, 55 of them were canceled this year. And we also, that night, canceled our Rummachoramas, or there was going to be 3 of them held this year in December, February, and March, and we canceled those. And our next meeting will be Wednesday, September 9th. That concludes my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Kavanaugh? Thank you very much. Finance Committee, Supervisor Hanson is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Finance met a week ago Monday. Good news, I believe, I'm looking at Mr. Neuser just to make sure that we sold our last property out on East Street. So those are gone, and that resulted in a plus $100,000 over our expenses for going through that. So another builder, and hopefully he has good luck and can sell those lots and build some houses. We are looking at the revolving loan fund. That, to give you a little reminder, that's the money that we used to loan out to help people create jobs in the community. That program's going away. We are getting money back from the state of Wisconsin that we had loaned. It's about 1.2 million, and we're in discussions on how to spend that money at this time. There's restrictions on it, but that will come back in the future. It's a good program. We have some options to do some things. It's 1.2 million and can be used for some projects. We have 2 resolutions tonight. These are very much the same. We had some claims of damage done by cutting grass along the road, and that caused stones to be thrown at 2 different vehicles, causing damage. Our insurance company says everything was put together right on the machine. So those stones came out, but the guards and everything were there. We don't have liability because everything was correctly done. So we are looking at your support in denying those resolutions. So an aye vote will be denied. So I'll make a motion on number 8, deny the claim to Mr. Meyer.
So motion by Supervisor Hanson, second by Supervisor Williams to deny the claim. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. On to the next resolution.
Resolution number 9, same type of thing happened, and we are looking for a denial of the claim to Ms. Seminar.
So motion by Supervisor Hanson, second by Supervisor Baumann. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you for the support. Finance meets second Monday of the month, and you are welcome to be there. We met at the Heritage Center last time, and we'll do that again. It's a big enough space that we can space out and hold our meetings. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Supervisor Hanson? Supervisor Hagan?
Is there remote access to the meeting?
Is there remote access to the meeting? I do not believe so if we're at the Heritage Center.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Supervisor Hanson. Highway Committee, Supervisor Benke is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to remind new supervisors as well as seasoned supervisors to take the opportunity when you see these agendas coming through, reading through these resolutions. County Executive's office's door is always open. Our department directors, if we're bonding for a $5 million bridge or whatever, and you don't understand the financing, call the comptroller. I've called Todd a number of times and asked him questions. Use our department directors for asking those questions prior to the meeting if you have those questions, so you are more prepared for the meeting. I'm just giving that as a suggestion. Take the opportunity to use our expertise we have great department directors, whether it be Public Works or whether it be Parks and Planning. Use our directors, ask questions, give them a call, their doors are open. So that's just a suggestion. August 11th, we met for Highway. We've been getting into a lot more driveway accesses, people building, and so that seems to be the flavor of the day when it comes to some of our agenda items. One of the more controversial items was the four-way stop, or lack of a four-way stop in Kellnersville, and the village had requested to have a four-way stop there. There was only a two-way stop there, and it went through traffic and safety. They recommended to put the four-way stop there, so Highway concluded with that. We also sent a letter to the village that maybe because of the change in putting a four-way stop there, that they put some flashing, some flags, something to recognize those stop signs, and Mark did send that notice out to the village. That was also, Mark also a 5-year plan that he gave for the Mishicot satellite shop. We have a number of satellite shops besides our main shop on 310. We have Mishicot, we have one in St. Nazianz, we have one in Reedsville, we have one on I-43. So we have a number of satellite shops, and Mishicot is probably one of our elderly shops that needs some tender loving and care. So Mark gave a 5-year plan going through certain steps. The state is going to be redoing their roof on their salt shed. So when we spread salt on state highways, they have their own salt shed there. We have our salt shed there. So the state is going to be doing their roof on their salt, so we're going to try to get piggyback on maybe get some savings in that project. But there's a number of step projects there in a 5-year plan that Mark went through to that we need to take care of in the Mishicot shop in order to get that back up to good. So that was pretty much our meeting. We will be meeting September 8th. At 4 p.m. And again, I just want to reiterate, make those phone calls. So all supervisors, if you have them, take the liberty. County executive is always, every time I've called him, he always answers his phone. I don't know if he keeps it next to his nightlight there, Bob, but he always gets back to you if you can't get a hold of him. So take that opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any questions for Supervisor Benke? Supervisor Henriksen? Unless you want to take your Peter.
Supervisor Benke, I'm sorry I don't remember the road.
Would Mark be able to tell me why there's a bridge on up of 147 that's been, hasn't been completed yet between Rivers and Mishcot?
I think that's the 147.
Hillcrest? 147, River.
Hillcrest Road, yeah.
Hillcrest? That went in the bridge program. Yeah, it's in the bridge program, but it's gonna be a couple of years before it comes to getting done.
So
You have to remember, the bridge program is a number of years, it goes out to, I think, 25 or 26. So those bridges come in line, so it's in the next couple of years, that will be in the bridge program.
okay, so but because the bridge is out now,
It got delayed.
okay, so it's just gonna be delayed until we get it.
It got delayed. Oh, that's right. Yes, they applied for the funding, but it didn't get to, it was a better choice to take the funding, the bridge at an 80-20, because they applied through the multimodal program, which was a 70-30, so they're gonna wait, because the 80-20 program is better for them financially.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Supervisor Hendrickson. Anything else for Supervisor Banky? All right, now we'll continue on with Human Services Board. Supervisor Hendrickson is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We will be meeting this coming Thursday, 4 o'clock. Our budget hearing, right after our budget hearing, we'll have a regular meeting. So, we'll be at the Human Services building. Anybody have any comments on our budget? Please attend 4 o'clock. After that, we'll have a regular meeting. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Supervisor Hendrickson? Thank you very much. Personnel Committee, Supervisor Marsh is the chair.
Thank you. We met August 4th. We approved a 2-week unpaid leave of absence for an ADRC employee. The employee is a relatively new employee and had exhausted all their benefits. We discussed the 5-year health insurance plan. Good news again. We have the same rate since 2015, so no change in plan. We approved the high dollar claim review program administered by Wisconsin RX. The agriculture agent vacancy at UW Extension was discussed. Scott Gunderson has retired, but due to the state hiring freeze, we are unable to hire. It is out of our hands until the state changes their plans of the hiring freeze. So hopefully we will have other counties helping out. The computer resources policy and the new work from home policy was discussed. Department directors are reviewing the policies and have been asked to provide their comments and suggestions. We will be looking at these policies at our next meeting on September 1st. And possibly at the September meeting, we will bring it to the county board for approval. We approved the conversion of contracted services at the Human Services Department to the creation of 3 youth justice support case managers positions. Let's see, and I have a resolution. I have a resolution before you that authorizes the addition of the 3.0 full-time equivalent human services employees. The breakdown is on the resolution under the fiscal impact, so it actually is going to become financially very beneficial for us. So I so move.
Motion by Supervisor Marsh, second by Supervisor Cavanaugh. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Anything else, Supervisor Marsh?
Yes, we also approved the waiver of one of the advertising requirement for one of the youth justice support case manager position. And that is the end of my report, and our next meeting is September 1st at 4:15 and at the county board meeting room. Thank you.
Any questions for Supervisor Marsh? Thank you very much. Public Works Committee, Supervisor Juror is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Public Works met Wednesday, August 12th. We reviewed and discussed the solid waste and recycling division, going over the programs and markets. We discussed our verbal agreement with the city of Manitowoc regarding composting and recyclables. That was an agreement between the previous Public Works Director Jeff Beyer and the city engineer Mike Hawley. That's coming to an end at the end of the year, and we will be renegotiating that. We reviewed and discussed the Building and Grounds Division. We did a capital payment to Mammoth Construction for the sewer work done at the Heritage Center. We reviewed and discussed the Communications Division, went over capital projects, the Information Services Department, and we reviewed and discussed activities here at Expo, the Ice Center, the capital projects, what was going on with the fair or not going on with the fair this year, and reviewed the Special Revenue Fund report. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Any questions for Supervisor Juror? Wow, you mentioned some, Mike Hawley, wow, that brings back some memories. So that contract is that old, wow. All right, sorry, I'm reminiscing a little bit. Any questions? Thank you very much, Supervisor Juror. Transportation Coordinating Committee, Supervisor Ballman is the chair.
Hello. No report, Mr. Chairman. We have a 100% virtual committee meeting tomorrow at 11 a.m. Yeah.
Any questions for Supervisor Ballman? Thank you very much. Just some announcement, I already talked about next month potentially being back at our normal room, and I talked about Senator Levy something awarded for any work, so as well too. I want to thank the seven newly elected supervisors, even though you're not really newly elected anymore, it's been several months. One of the omissions we have because we didn't get a group picture yet, we were going to do that the same night, and I'm still working on that. I'm still a little leery about having 25 people stand together, but we're working on that as well. But I did have the individual ones taken by my daughter came out tonight, and we got pictures. So those will be hopefully online by the end of the week, online on your profile on the county web page. All right, there's nothing else. A motion to adjourn will be in order. Motion by Supervisor Hendrickson, second by Supervisor Dizak. All in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good evening.